What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Weekly GCap, the only source you'll ever need to catch up on all the gaming news from the last week. As always, we got quite a couple stories to go through, and if there's only a handful of them that interest you, feel free to either use the timestamps down in the description, or just when you scroll across the time bar, it should label the chapters there, and you can just skip ahead to whatever stories interest you the most. First things first, let's go ahead and go over all the major game releases from the last week according to Metacritic. So, on July 9th, we had Once Human. On July 11th, we had Angerfoot, Paracel Stars, The Story of Bubble Bobble 3, Princess Maker 2 Regeneration, and then July 12th we had Kaku Ancient Seal, which this game was available before, but now it's just leaving early access. So now I'd love to hear from you guys. Have you guys gotten to pick up or play any of these games? Next up, Floppy Nights is free on Epic Games. This will be free until July 18th at 11 AM EST, so you might as well redeem it because there's no better price than free. Next up, we got the July PS Plus Extra and Premium games for you guys. So in Extra, we have Remnant 2, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous Enhanced Edition, Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord, No More Heroes 3, Travis Strikes Again No More Heroes, Jackbox Party Pack 9, Deadcraft, Steep, and then moving up to the premium tier, we have Job Simulator for PSVR 2, Summoner, Ratchet & Clank Size Matters, and Jean d'Arc. This is an amazing lineup right here, so this is a very exciting update for the service. Next up, the Ys 10 Nordics release date was announced, so they put up a trailer and the description reads, quote, explore uncharted islands, engage in fast-paced action combat, and experience the high seas adventures of unlikely allies, Adol and Karja, in Ys 10 Nordics, coming to Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC on October 25th, 2024, which actually happens to be one day before my birthday, so yeah, I'll pick this one up for myself as a birthday gift. For anybody curious, even though this is technically the 10th game in the series, the Ys games are mostly standalone, so you could dive into this one without playing any of the previous games and you would be just fine, and I would highly recommend diving in and trying this one out if you haven't yet, and if you've just kind of been waiting for that right moment, waiting for the next game to release, again, now's the time to do it. Though I will say it's a fantastic series, and it dates quite the way back. You know, we had like Ys 8 and Ys 9 more in recent years, but I mean, this series goes way back decades ago when you go back to like the first couple of entries, so I would recommend doing your research and possibly trying out those games, because this is an amazing series through and through. Next up, Double Dragon Revive was announced. This coming from Gamatsu, quote, Arc System Works has announced Double Dragon Revive for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. The latest issue of Weekly Famitsu reveals it will launch in 2025. According to the magazine, the new game faithfully reproduces the thrill of old-school side-scrolling action games with updated controls and difficulty settings for the modern era and utilizing Arc System Works' fighting game development experience. Jimmy Lee, Billy Lee, Roper, Abobo, and more will appear in stylish 3D. So again, this will be releasing in 2025 for all of the modern consoles except for the Switch. But if y'all know me, then you know I absolutely love Double Dragon, so I would definitely be picking this one up day one. Next up, basketball has finally come to Nintendo Switch Sports. This is coming from Nintendo of America on X. Quote, ready to shoot some hoops? Basketball arrives in Nintendo Switch Sports on July 9th. So, you know, at the time of me recording this and this video going up, obviously it is available now, and it's interesting how this is just now being added to the game considering how long it's been out and the fact that they didn't announce this previously, but yeah, there we go. Basketball is finally in Switch Sports, and it's a lot of fun. Next up, Nintendo uploaded a strange trailer. The title of the video is Emio. I'm not exactly sure how we're supposed to pronounce that. Who knows? It might even be something like Amayo for all I know. But anyway, the description reads hashtag who is Emio or Emio? We'll just go with Emio for just, you know, just consistency. There's a mature 17 plus ESRB rating at the bottom left, and there's some rather disturbing music playing in the background with who I'm assuming is Emio standing in the center of the frame. This was posted all over their social medias, and I mean, I really don't know what to make of this. I mean, I'm assuming it's a first-party Nintendo game, right? Like, I feel like they would have labeled it if it was otherwise. If Nintendo is actually trying to take a stab at making a mature horror game, I am all for it, because obviously Nintendo are masterminds when it comes to just developing games, period, across many different types of genres, whether that be racing, fighting, platformers, open world, etc. So them dabbling their toes in horror with a potentially new IP, there is a lot of potential here. And, you know, Nintendo is obviously mainly a Japanese company, and if you know anything about Japan, they are masterminds when it comes to horror. They make some of the most disturbing stuff you will ever see in your life over in Japan. But at this point, you know, we really don't know anything else about the game, so, you know, as soon as we know more, obviously I'll let you guys know. But the only real question I'm left with is, Who is Emio? Next up, Nintendo has hit Sudachi with a DMCA. So Sudachi is a Nintendo Switch emulator. The developer posted up the receipts of the DMCA sent to them by Nintendo, so not much to go over there, as it's mostly just legal mumbo jumbo, but they also posted up on X saying, quote, "Quick update regarding Sudachi. I've started replacing code with libhack and I'm still waiting on a response from GitHub. I've also looked into 1201, which is referenced in every DMCA by the same person, and from my understanding, the emulator is fine." So, there's nothing else at this time, but hopefully this emulator doesn't get shut down too, because obviously it was pretty tragic when Yuzu was basically just eviscerated, just Thanos snapped out of existence along with the Citra emulator, which wasn't even connected since that was just a 3DS emulator. Obviously, you can still find those things out there online, but in terms of actual development and getting it from the official source, it is long gone. But as always, I'll keep you guys updated as soon as we know more, and again, hopefully everything will be fine with Sudachi, and I really hope that this isn't another emulator that ends up getting shut down. Next up, the Ultimate Sega console could be in development. So this coming from Time Extension, quote, "Super Sega FPGA console will play Genesis, Master System, Saturn, and Dreamcast games." In other words, literally every Sega system. A team of Spanish Sega fans are looking to build the Ultimate Sega console capable of running Mega Drive, Genesis, Master System, SC3000, SG1000, Saturn, and Dreamcast games. Super Sega will use a Vertex Ultrascale Plus FPGA chip to replicate the performance of these systems as accurately as possible. It will also feature Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, as well as an SD card slot. The optical drive will be a CD/DVD reader/writer contained within a transparent bay within the console's unusual bodywork. 8 joystick ports will be included, allowing Sega fans to use their original controllers, and there will also be USB ports. The team behind Super Sega is headed up by computer engineer Alejandro Martin, who has previously worked at Cinemartin and Tres Telecom. Tony Hernandez, Carlos Lopez, and Cristina Burguez are also involved with the project. Burguez, who is handling PR, had this to say, "We've had to tidy this up a bit as the original press release is written in slightly broken English." That's what they noted there in the article. Quote, "Until Super Sega has a working prototype, they will not release any funding campaign. Currently, almost all Sega's console games up to Saturn are in a working playable state, and a few Dreamcast games are playable. So far, so good, but until we finish the prototype, we will not consider releasing the project." And then Martin adds, "We have been working on a Sega Saturn core since a few years ago. Until now, there has been almost no suitable FPGA hardware out there, but with the Ultrascale Plus, things have changed, and prices seem more reasonable than before. With a minimum of 100K up to 1 million of logic cells, it is now possible to do a Dreamcast behavior with enough speed." End quote. So at this time, there's not really much else to report on. There's no official release dates, or, there's nothing about like any Kickstarter campaigns or anything like that, because they're really waiting until they have a proper prototype built and, something feasible that they could actually release to the public and, get everything figured out from the logistics and possible licensing side before they proceed with the Kickstarter and mass production and stuff like that. So at this time, there's nothing else to report on. I will be following this story closely, so I mean, hey, if anything else comes out of this, if we end up getting an official release date or seeing more about the console, I'll let you guys know immediately, because for retro enthusiasts like myself, and I'm sure many of you watching, yeah, this is very exciting, especially with the possibility of not only using original controllers and accessories, but also playing just like our original games on these systems and having it be that ultimate system to where you could play anything on there, anything from Master System all the way up to Dreamcast. That is just a very exciting prospect. So again, I'll be following this, and as soon as we know more, I'll let you guys know too. Next up, Sony and Palworld are working together. This coming from Gamatsu, quote, "Sony Music Entertainment Japan, subsidiary Aniplex, and Palworld developer Pocket Pair have announced the establishment of Palworld Entertainment, a joint venture that will be responsible for developing the reach of the intellectual property and for expanding commercial business endeavors, including the global licensing and merchandising activities associated with Palworld outside of the game. Joint venture efforts will begin with the development of exclusive merchandise based on the game, which will debut and sell at the Pocket Pair booth during Bilibili World 2024, beginning Friday, July 12, 2024 in Shanghai, China, and be made available for pre-order at Aniplex and its subsidiaries, Aniplex of America and Aniplex Shanghai, e-commerce sites with more detailed information at a later date." So, the one thing worth noting is that right now the game is only available on Xbox and PC, and while yes, Sony Music is completely separate from their PlayStation division there at Sony, I could see this possibly expediting the process for a PlayStation release of the game. Now, the only reason that Palworld is not available on PlayStation at this time is because Xbox does have a program in place for early access games to where you could either release them outright or release them into Game Pass, and then, even if a game is necessarily just, in early access or a beta or whatever, you can still you release your games there, people can still download it and play them, and PlayStation, to a certain extent, does have support for that type of stuff, like when it comes to, like, betas for games, like, know, for like the latest Call of Duty, for example, whenever a beta goes live, you can download it and play it there, for example. But when it comes to like early access games in the vein of Palworld, they don't necessarily have that layer of support there officially. So, the only thing really holding Palworld back from being able to release on PlayStation is the fact that it's still in early access and it has not had an official 1.0 release. So, once it has that 1.0 release ready to go and, you know, actually releases, then the game could also release on PlayStation, and I'd expect, just with how big Palworld is, that they would be smart enough to release 1.0 on all platforms at the same time, including PlayStation, so do a rollout for the PlayStation version finally, as well as rolling out 1.0 for Xbox and PC. Obviously, that'll be yet to be seen, but from a marketing perspective, that would just make the most sense to me in order to inflate the numbers and make the launch even bigger than ever before, and maybe even a possible Switch rollout if they want to get if they want to get a little testy with the waters there. I do still think it would be cool if PlayStation could add an official support layer for early access games like that, just because we've seen so many of them coming out lately, and a lot of them only making their way to Xbox, since that's the only platform that really has true support for that type of thing. But otherwise, I just thought that this was an interesting partnership, and since it is still technically related to gaming with Palworld and all that, I figured I'd just cover the story here. And finally, Xbox Game Pass prices are increasing. This coming from support.xbox.com. Quote, starting July 10th, 2024, the following updates to Xbox Game Pass will take effect. Price changes will go into effect for new members for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, Xbox Game Pass Core, and PC Game Pass. Game Pass for console will no longer be available for new members. Members who are already subscribed to Game Pass for console and have automatic payment renewal enabled will be able to continue to enjoy their membership. Also, a new Game Pass option, Xbox Game Pass Standard, will become available in the coming months. These changes will enable us to bring members more value and more great games to Game Pass. And then they address the pricing and like when these things are taking effect below that. So they say worldwide prices are changing for Game Pass Ultimate, PC Game Pass, and 12-month subscriptions to Game Pass Core. On July 10th, 2024, updated prices take effect for new member subscriptions. Starting September 12th, 2024, the price of recurring charges will change for existing members. So if you're signing up for the first time, the prices have already been, raised. But if you're still an existing member, you don't got to worry about that for 2 more months yet. Now, some things I wanted to note here is that Game Pass Standard is essentially the same as Game Pass Ultimate. However, they do not get day one releases on that tier, except there is going to be some kind of grace period. And they also won't have access to cloud streaming, not like you probably use that anyway. But at the very least, as I just mentioned, you won't have access to day one releases, however, you will get them eventually. So say like Black Ops 6 is coming out later this year, and on Game Pass Ultimate, obviously, you will get access to the game day one. In Game Pass Standard, you're going to have to wait probably somewhere between 3 to 12 months. It's going to be on like a case-by-case basis. So for some games, you could be waiting 3 months till you can play it, or 6, or 9, or 12 months, or maybe in some cases, if there's like an extreme case, maybe even 24 months. I don't think that would ever happen. I feel like the highest echelon would probably only be 12 months, but that remains to be seen. But then if we go ahead and cover the prices, yeah, this is where things are getting pretty controversial. Xbox Game Pass Core is going to be $75 per year instead of $60, but the monthly price will still be $10. PC Game Pass will be $12 now instead of $10. The new Game Pass Standard tier will be $15 per month. And Game Pass Ultimate is going up from $17 per month to $20 per month, or, $19.99, because, that's how it works in retail, right? You list it 1 penny lower than what it actually technically is, and it seems a lot cheaper, but no, yeah, it's $20. So yeah, this is a pretty controversial change, and understandably so. $20 per month, yeah, streaming services, I don't know about this one, Chief. Me personally, I will still be subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate just because I do get a lot of value out of that service. I play a lot of games on that service. As I mentioned before, I play and complete a lot of single-player games very frequently, so I do get a lot of value out of the service. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm just gonna have to kind of suck it up here and pay a lot of money. It would be really nice if they could offer a yearly subscription model of some kind, but unfortunately, for some reason, they still only have monthly options for Game Pass Ultimate, even though they do have annual plans for Game Pass Core, which I do find to be quite interesting. Nonetheless, this is just where we're at with streaming services in order to keep these things actually being sustainable for the corporations. And, yeah, I don't know, it's just getting to that point where it's like, I do get a lot of value out of these, so I will be paying for these, but it is at that point now where it's like, alright, if any of these subscriptions go up, whether that be PS Plus, Xbox, Nintendo Switch Online is the only one where I can be like, alright, if that one goes up, that's okay, because it's so cheap, but for the other ones, PS Plus, I am subscribed to Premium, and I pay for the annual plan, so if that goes up anymore, I could withstand a small price hike there yet before I would call it quits, but for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, it's right there. It's like, all right, man, like any higher, and I don't know if I can really justify this one anymore. It's obviously unfortunate that prices have to hike so much at all, right? When Game Pass Ultimate first came out, it was only $9.99, aka $10, which is like half of what it was now, and yeah, I don't know, just, interesting situation. I really don't know what else to say. But anyways, that is all the stories that I got for you guys this week, so now I'd definitely love to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on everything that we talked about? Whether it's Xbox Game Pass's prices increasing, Nintendo sending out even more DMCAs, the Ultimate Sega console. What do you think about that? Would you buy that if it actually came out? Just whatever it is, whatever you're thinking, I'd definitely love to hear from you guys. But anyway, this is Weekly GCap. New episodes go live every single Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, so if you catch them as soon as you go live, well then, I know when to be here. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.